Welcome to Tech Hub. We are here at the world-famous Russian Tea Room, slightly to the left of Carnegie Hall. My guest today is Barry Grieff from Audience Entertainment. Now, I've seen a little bit about Barry's company, and I impressively saw a group of 60,000 people holding lights up and moving them back and forth and playing a game that I played, I think, over 40 years ago. We called it Pong then, and I think it's evolved into Brick Breaker, but his company is a lot more complicated than that, and it's just, this is my bearskin rug and stone knives way of explaining what he does so that he can sound a lot smarter than me very shortly. So Barry, welcome, and explain to me exactly what Audience Entertainment does and how you founded it, and run with it.
All right. Well, I think what will be valuable for people to understand is that all of this became possible with the digitization of content, of media. Until then, everything was linear. All storytelling was linear. You start a story at the beginning, you go straight through to the end. That's how it works, beginning, middle, and end. Digital media means you can jump around. It means you can start in the middle, you can go to the beginning, you can go back and forth, up and down, any way you like. So what that means, and this is the heart of all of this, is that for the first time, literally, storytelling is going to change. You're going to see different kinds of stories told in different ways, and it's just the very, very beginning of all of this. So what you're seeing with us is sort of the infancy of that. You see this on the mobile phone where people are interacting with games. You see it on your computer. But with us, the difference is you see large groups of people playing. And in our case, you need to cooperate with each other. So if there are 100 people in a movie theater, they need to work together to drive the car on the screen through motion capture, which is the technology that we use. So what we are in the process of doing is building what we call Given, the Global Interactive Venue Network. We are connecting movie theaters around the world so that people in London can play a game against people in New York, could play a game against people in Moscow. If it's the Olympics, for example, and there's a basketball game between Russia and the United States, you could be sitting in a stadium in Russia playing a basketball game against folks sitting in a stadium in the United States.
And this all has to be done in unison, the audience working
Well, it
together?
works better. It works better if it's done in unison. The point of it is teamwork. If you don't work with each other, then you're not going to do as well as a group that does.
So if you have like 3 uncoordinated people out of the 60, are they going to throw off the game?
No, but if you have 60 out of 60, it'll be better. It's a mathematical algorithm. So what happens is if there are 100 people and 50 lean to the left and 50 lean to the right and you're driving a car, it'll go straight. If 100 lean to the left and none lean to the right, the car will veer off the road. So the trick is to drive the car on the road. And in our case, there are different games: pick up objects, avoid obstacles, etc.
So when is this going to happen in a movie theater? Is it going to
It's happened.
But I mean, is it before the trailer, after the trailer?
Well, currently it happens as part of the pre-show. That 20-minute segment that runs before the movie when you normally see an ad. We believe that these are more compelling and more valuable than ads because the engagement factor makes people more interested. So all the research that we've done up to this point indicates that the people that have played our game remember the product longer, have a better feeling about it, and the time spent is more valuable than an ordinary ad.
So, but the game is going to be sponsored by a particular company?
Yes. Yeah, so a car company who did this game in London. We were in 12 movie theaters all over England, and they raced a Volvo literally against each other at the same time on a Saturday night, 8 o'clock at night. The game was played in front of Ratatouille, and you could see the scores of the other theaters on each of the screens, and the theater that had did the best job of avoiding obstacles won probably popcorn.
So it sounds like it's also, I go to a lot of sporting events at baseball games. They do the subway race game at Shea and at Yankee Stadium, which people go crazy for, even though it's pretty simplistic. So this is a more sophisticated version of that.
Yeah, we think this is like an electronic wave. This is going to take the place of what you just said, in our view, because this is more fun. It's cleverer, if there's such a word, and it's also scalable. You can play one side of the stadium against the other. You can play one city against another city. This has value, of course, for things like education, because it's widely known that gameplay teaches kids better than traditional methods. So there are a lot of opportunities for this to really be exploited and expanded.
Well, a lot of the footage I saw, so I saw 60,000 people. Was that in London? You also mentioned names like Bon Jovi, a huge crowd I saw in Lyon, France. That was my pronunciation.
France was right. You said France correctly. Right.
Oui. So why do you have a bigger presence now internationally in Europe than you do here?
No, we have a larger presence here because we have 54 permanent installations here at the moment, and we're only beginning in Europe. We have, I think, 10 or 12 in Turkey, another 8 or 10 in Russia. We're opening in China and India, Portugal and England, and we're in the U.S. So the goal is to go to the multinational, the Coca-Colas of the world, and say we can do something globally, a launch for you that you can't do any other way. And it's a really nice thing to do because people are working together. They're always talking about teamwork and they want to teach the world to sing and all of that.
Well, how does this compare expense-wise to putting a commercial together?
It's less expensive than making a traditional commercial. The games are fairly inexpensive to make, and the time is whatever the value of the time is, and that's based on how the theater charges. So it's the same principle, and the cost of the production is actually lower than a commercial.
So how do you set up your fee situation?
We work on a revenue share of the advertising, and we get paid for the production of the game. So we have two revenue sources: the game and the advertising revenue share.
Now, how long have you been in business?
Since 2009, in this company.
And how have you been growing in terms of when you started up and to this point?
Well, we started this. Actually, this originally started when one of a marketer came into our office and saw this game and said, "Hey, can we do that in a movie theater? We're doing this program." And we said, "Good idea. Let's try that." So we ran it. I think I don't know if I showed you this, but it was the first game we did for MSNBC, and it was a monster success. The audience actually started yelling and screaming and asked us to play the game over and over. It was amazing.
What I find most interesting about doing this show and all the different people I meet like you is a lot of them have told me similar stories. We came up with an idea for us to create something, and then somebody in marketing said, we can point it in this direction, and it really exploded. So what were you originally intending to do with this?
Well, that's a slightly different answer. This was originally we had a location where we had lots of technologies that we showcased to marketers, because we're marketers and we show them to the merchandisers, I should say, to the product companies, and they would come in and say, these are really interesting technologies. How do we use them? And we would come up with ways for them to use them. In this case, we had shown them how to do a game as an event. They simply said, can we do it in a movie theater? That was actually the triggering point there. But we had been doing this sort of thing in events, and we've done it before. That way. So what changed here was the notion that we could actually create a network. The fact that it could be in a place where you could leave it and have it permanently installed so it could be sold every month or every week or however often, that's different. Most of these things are kind of oriented towards there's a program, you sell it and you're done. In our case, this is going to be like NBC or CBS or anything else. You're going to, you'll say, gee, I'm interested in doing an interactive program in April. Is it available?
And can somebody just give you a concept like, I'd like to have two gladiators are going to fight each other, and
Yeah, they do it all the time.
Okay.
Well, one of the really nice things about this, when we go to ad agencies, and I used to work in one, so we know a lot of these folks. They're pretty bored with making 30-second radio spots and quarter-page print ads and the traditional television stuff. The opportunity for the creatives to actually make a game that functions as an ad is very exciting if you're a creative in an ad agency. So they're all over this. They love the idea because it's new and different for them, and it's very creative.
Well, what movie theaters can we see this at? Any in New York City right now?
Yeah, there's one at Union Square. It's the one on 13th Street and Broadway. And I forget what the other theater is, but we're in 15 major markets in the United States. We're in L.A., we're in Chicago.
Do you have a website that you'd like to
yeah.
plug?
Yeah, audienceentertainment.com, as you might have guessed.
Audienceentertainment.com, Barry Grieff. What else can you tell me? What do you see for the future? Where are you going to go with this? How
big
you
asked.
Are you going to be?
I'm glad you asked. Because
are you going to go public? Do I get some stock?
Well, I don't know. But here's what you're going to see, I believe. What you're going to see is, in the not-too-distant future, you're going to go into the movies, and the entire movie will be interactive. The audience will change the direction of the movie. If it's a murder mystery, for example, you might decide who you think the murderer is, what you think the method is, and what you think the motive is, and you will literally change the direction of the film on the screen, and the outcome will be different depending on who's in the theater.
Well, there's a play on Broadway called The Mystery of Edwin Drood, and the audience votes on who the killer is, which is easy to do with live theater, but is there a way you can explain this simply to the unknowledgeable like
Yeah,
myself
there is
how
a
this
way.
is going to be done?
Sure. I actually tried this a while ago. If you imagine, for example, that you're in a multiplex, and let's say you're in 4 screens, just for the sake of the argument, and the first 10 minutes of the movie is the same. All 4 screens see this setup. And I actually did this. I did this years ago as a Laserdisc. It was a murder mystery Laserdisc. That's how I know about this stuff, right? And that's how this all began, really. I did this in 1985. And the setup is the patriarch of the family is announcing that he's upset and he's gonna write some people out of his will. The whole family's sitting around a big table in a castle, thunder and lightning. All of a sudden the screen goes dark, a gunshot, he's dead. The audience is asked to pick who they suspect murdered him. If you suspect the aunt, you go to cinema 1. If you suspect the butler, you go to cinema 2. And so forth. And then there'd be another 10-minute segment that focuses on who you suspect. Then you'd get another set of pieces of information, and you would be asked to move again. So over time, you would be seeing the same movie in different pieces. So if there are 100 people playing the game, 10 people will see an entirely different movie than the other 90. And they'll come to a different conclusion. And the interesting thing is there's more than one solution, because depending on the path you follow, that's who's correct. That may have sounded confusing, but you asked.
Well, there's a lot of logistics about moving the people around, but I do.
Well, you said, where's it going? I'm just telling you,
Yes,
this is
no,
not
I
tomorrow. This is
yeah.
where it's going.
Look, the thing that's most interesting about what's happening with e-commerce and just technology is there are things that people like you envision that nobody else does, and that's why we make changes with leaps and bounds. And
well, what you're going to see in the near term will be more like loyalty programs. You'll see things in the movie theaters, let's say on a Tuesday night when they're not busy, and it'll be, for example, it might be some sort of a cereal like you used to see in the old days, Buck Rogers or Flash Gordon, and you will be invited to come back, and there'll be rewards and puzzles and prizes that you will win as you solve puzzles and riddles. So there'll be an incentive for you to come to the theater. This is important stuff for the theaters because they're empty so much of the time.
Because you're going to have to make this theater more of a destination point.
Exactly right.
Look, things have changed so much. I've been working in television most of my career. If 15 years ago you told people that there'd be a hit TV show called Storage Wars about people bidding on what they don't see inside a storage unit in, Oshkosh, Pennsylvania or something, they would tell you you're insane and they would ship you away.
And that's probably what should have happened.
Unfortunately, yes, you're right.
With that show. No offense, Storage Wars, but geez.
Yes, Storage Wars are. The guys that make the duck quacker noise things for hunting, the Duck Dynasty, that's another mystery to me. But now if 600 people dutifully watch your show, you have a hit.
You're also going to see school children going to the theater to see, let's say, an hour's worth of programming where they'll play games, and maybe there'll be spelling tests or reading exercises, and they'll be quizzed just as they would in the classroom, but the class will compete against the class in another city. So you could have a national competition in a friendly way, because it's group, it's the class against the class, not a child against another child, which is always a little tricky. So this way you are encouraging learning. You're teaching some competition, and it's fun.
What about, so we touched earlier on sporting events. So I see a huge market there.
Yeah.
Do you have to go to like separate teams, or would this be a deal with like Major League Baseball?
Well, we're talking to both, actually, and we've had our first installation in a sports bar already, and we're in conversations to begin installing in 3 more in Connecticut in the next couple of weeks. And the idea there is to have, pardon the expressions, the crazy Knick fans playing a game against the crazy Celtic fans, a bar in Boston against a bar in New York, with rewards.
If bars are now playing Trivial Pursuit at sports bars, so if that's successful, then what you do should be a no-brainer. I would think it would be a lot more popular.
That's what we think. And so far, the people we've shown it to say exactly that. They say this is great because, it's all visual, and, it's easy to play, and it's easy to see who wins. So we have high expectations for the sports bar idea.
Well, your videos are really interesting. Your company sounds great, and I wish you great success. Barry Grieff of Audience Entertainment. Can you tell us where can we follow you on Twitter at all?
Me? No,
Yes.
I don't like Twitter.
Okay.
But you can look at the website.
But go to the website, audienceentertainment.com. I'm not going to spell it. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much for tuning in to Tech Hub.
Thanks.